Restaurateur Lance Hurtubise is CEO of the Vintage Group, a collection of restaurants based mainly in Alberta and Prince Edward Island. Wine plays a central role in both Lance's restaurants and in his life. He's also launched his own line of wines recently. Welcome, Lance.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, great. Now, I read your biography, and as I expected, you had a paper route when you were a young boy, very entrepreneurial. You had an entrepreneurial father. And then I read, and his race car driving mother. I have to ask you about that first before we launch into this. Did she do that as a passion or for a living?
She actually was a nun when she did that and had to stop. She did powder puff derbies, so she had to stop racing the cars to remain in the, to stay a nun.
Okay, so that wasn't the answer I expected. So first she was a race car driver, then she was a nun, and then she was your mother, right?
Nun, race car, mother, in that order.
Oh, good. Okay, not to get distracted, but that just caught my eye. You come from a colorful family, which is great. So now you started in the restaurant business fairly young. Tell me about how old you were and what you were doing the first time you had your first job in a restaurant.
My first job in a restaurant was as a dishwasher at a company called Butcher Block, which is now gone, in Calgary when I was 12 years old, making $2.10 an hour. And I remember my first check very well. It was $64.10, and I thought I had made it at that point in my life.
So did that give you, was that what set you on the course for being in the restaurant business? Was there something about that you loved, other than the money, of course?
No, I actually hated it because I'd stay up at night and I couldn't sleep, and my mom would give me aspirins when I'm 12 so I could fall asleep, and thought, this is crazy. And then I saw the fine dressed busboys walking around out there, and I thought, man, I think I could do that one day. And so I moved from there over to the spaghetti factory.
Okay, and so you kept on working in the restaurant business, and then where did you make the transition into, I know I'm sort of leaping ahead here, but in 1986 you founded Moxie. So you must have made a progression through the industry and then finally got to that point?
Yeah, absolutely. My first managerial job was with the Keg Restaurants, which was a great experience. Then an opportunity came up to go work for a chain in Edmonton called Maxwell Taylors. I was told we were going to open a Maxwell Taylors in Calgary, and that would be within 3 months. A year and a half later, it hadn't opened, so I said, okay, I'm going to move back to Calgary. And they actually had the Burger King franchise rights for Western Canada at the time. And so they had a site that they couldn't get a drive-through, and said, what do you think you should do here? And at the time, we thought deli, big portions, that kind of thing. So we opened the first Moxie's with 110 seats. It actually, little known fact, was called Muncie's when we opened, but everybody called us Munchies, and we would do no dinner business. So one of our partners came up with the X in Moxie's to make a hard name that people would understand.
Okay, and now this is a fairly successful franchise, quite distinguished for its servers. I hesitate to ask, but did you do market research for that?
That wasn't me. I got out in '93 when it started to make real money. I didn't want the tax consequences, so that was taken over by one of the partners, and then the Northlands Group bought it out after that.
Okay, and now before we go on to the restaurants that you are running today, and I know wine is a big part of it, so wine has also been a big part of your life. What was your first sort of most memorable wine experience?
It was a cake bread, actually, in Addison, Texas, that one of my partners, we were going down researching our Santa Fe Grill concept, and we had this cake bread Chardonnay that was phenomenal. It was a seafood restaurant. We had it, and I thought, wow, I didn't know it could taste that good, from back in the days of Blue Nun and Pease Porter and stuff like that, when that was the top-selling wine at the Keg.
Huh, wow. And were you pairing that with a certain dish, or?
Yeah, it was with a shellfish. I can't remember exactly what, but it was. I just remember the taste exploding in my mouth, and I thought, wow, I didn't know wine could taste like this.
Okay, well, and now wine plays a really important part of your restaurants. You're even named the Vintage Group. So tell me a little bit about what role wine plays in the restaurants. I know that you have very different restaurants in your collection, but what is it about wine that is important for you?
Wine is a huge part of the dining experience, obviously, and with our higher-end restaurants and our steakhouse, wine plays an important role. It's 20% of our sales in the majority of our restaurants. We have wine lists with over 600 labels, and we have wine lists with 15. We try to focus in on that, and it's been phenomenal, and it's been an education, and we really want to educate. We want the best trained people in the industry, so we're constantly sending our people traveling, and I'm fortunate enough to get to travel a lot myself.
Is it true that customers will eat you poor and drink you rich?
We sell value, Natalie.
Too much press release. Margins are in the liquid. Okay, so how do so you send them traveling presumably to wine country? What other kinds of things do you do to train servers? Because you have a lot of staff, you have a lot of servers, I would expect, in very different kinds of establishments. What is the kind of training they go through?
Oh, the training's fairly intense. Even though we're premier casual, we have sommeliers in all the stores, or a wine director in the store, or a cellar, sort of watch the cellar for us. And every pre-shift we talk about wine and we taste wine and et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, it's 20% of our sales. It's a huge part of our business. And we like to educate our people, and we will bring the bottle and pour it at the table. We don't bring it in vessels. We bring the bottle directly to the table.
Okay, so in the restaurant where you have 600 labels, would that be the Red Grill?
Vintage Chop House.
Okay.
Vintage
Chop House. Okay. So what makes that a great list, apart from there are a lot of choices? What makes that list a good one?
Well, you're the wine pro, so I'm sure you've seen it, so you tell me. But wine people are like bears in the woods. They want to mark their territory. They want to talk about, what's great and what they like and what they think works. In the 10 years, we've probably had 3 different wine directors, and each person changes the list and builds the inventories up and stuff like that. So wine is a moving target to us. We like to buy boutique wines you can't get up here, and that's what we think separates us and gets our people excited about the wine. If you want to take a sommelier course, we will pay for that course for you as long as you remain with the company. And so Chop House really focuses on the red wines and the big cabs and stuff like that. And we are an oil and gas driven province, and oil guys like their big steaks and their big reds.
It's good to play to your audience. So what's the biggest mistake you see on restaurant lists, just in general? If you're out traveling and you're doing your market research and you're at another establishment, what do you think that wine lists often, what do they say 1 or 2 biggest mistakes?
They miss the sweet spots in wine. At our Rush and our Vintage Chop House, it's $60 to $80. So we bulk up that area. We know if you want to spend money, you can come into our restaurants and spend money. If you don't want to spend money, like Rush has 100 labels under $60. So I think, and they don't recognize who they are. Yes, you're an Italian restaurant. I understand that. And for us, the biggest selling wines are wines that are easily pronounced. Some of our French and our Italian wines, people aren't our big sellers, even though they're a better wine, because they're embarrassed to try to order the wine or say the wine, and that's why our sommeliers will point down the list with their fingers to introduce a wine and say, hey, how about this? And then he will repeat the name of what the wine he ordered was.
Right, so I'm guessing there aren't a lot of Gewürztraminers on your lists.
I was actually in a restaurant the other day, and it took the girl 3 times for me to say it to her to finally figure it out. But, she was young, and I get that. And, wine isn't a priority for most casual dining restaurants.
Wow. Okay. And what makes for a good list on when you have a small list? You mentioned one of them has 15 labels. Okay, knowing your customer and stocking well, serving them, of course. What else makes that list that has 15 wines on it a good one?
It's truly focused. You know, it's our Booker's Barbecue Grill and Crab Shack. It only has 15 labels on it. You know, it's a volume restaurant, so we need to be able to price it right, sell it right, you know, and have wines that pair well with barbecue.
Okay. And if you're out at one of your restaurants or elsewhere with and you're having a big juicy steak, and your dining companion is having the light Dover sole, what wine are you going to order?
How much do I like the person I'm dining with?
That's a whole other question. Okay, so you like the person, yes.
You know what? I would probably just order a Pinot or something easy that sort of splits the difference there, you know.
Yeah.
I like
Excellent.
Chardonnay, obviously. Our hidden hook is I would highly recommend, but yeah,
Okay.
you know what? Malbec's really coming on and stuff like that. We like to educate people as you go along, but you know,
Yeah, I like those recommendations. Pinot Noir and even Malbec are good, what I call switch hitter wines, because they're not big on the tannins, so they will go both ways with, say, seafood and steak. Um,
all right,
so,
I got one
so
right.
yeah, all right, yes, just one. No, just kidding. We're going to come back, Lance, and talk more about your wines that you've just mentioned, and we're going to taste a wine that you selected for us to taste today. So thank you for joining me for this part of our conversation, and we'll be back with you soon.
Thanks for having me.